All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Aubrey Chavez. I'm going to moderate real quick. This session is called Proper Care and Feeding of a Soul. The pandemic has changed a lot of things for many people, and it's also affected mental health. In this session, two seasoned therapists will discuss how to nurture your mental health and your soul during troubled times. Tekulvē Jackson-Vann is a native of Milledgeville, Georgia. Born into the Pentecostal Holiness Church, he later joined Bethel Missionary Baptist Church before being taught by the missionaries and joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1990. He served a full-time mission in Lansing, Michigan before enrolling in BYU, where he earned a BS in Marriage, Family, and Human Development with an emphasis in family life education from BYU's School of Family Life. He also earned an MS in Marriage and Family Therapy from Valdosta State University. He's currently a doctoral student in the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Science, where his focus is addressing the healthcare disparities for queer people of color. Tekulvē is a former Young Men's president, Elders Quorum president, counselor, ward mission leader, and temple worker. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist and certified family life educator. He is the proud father of 5, loving companion to 1, and doting human to 1 dog. He resides in Spanish Fork, Utah. Malia Halstvedt, LCSW, is a writer and mental health clinician. She loves good works, integrity, funeral potatoes with extra cornflakes, which I 100% appreciate that you know that is a thing. All right, I'm going to turn the time over to them, and then we're going to do about 15 minutes of Q&A. So if you're in this room, that's our mic, or you can submit on the Hoove app if you're at home or would rather that somebody else read your question. Okay, where's yours? Thanks.
Okay, hi, how are you guys? Thanks for being here. So I feel bad because my little bio really was horrible compared to yours. So so he'll handle all the hard questions and I'll do all the easy ones. So anyway, like you were saying, my name's Malia Halstvedt and I am a therapist in Billings, Montana. I got into Sunstone because when I moved to Utah in 1991, a very annoying little girl lived down the street. Her name was Lindsay Hansen, and we did not like each other at all. She thought that I was trying to be too funny and have the adults pay attention to me, and I thought that she was messing in everybody's business, and nothing's changed. So anyway, so I went into mental health, and I've had a bunch of different careers, but this is really my passion now. And I work primarily with children, teenagers, and some young adults. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll kind of be addressing my comments to the young people that are definitely going to be in your guys' lives, even if you're not actively parenting right now. Young people need a lot of support. The anxiety level since this pandemic has come forward has been very difficult for adults. It has been even more so for kids. Probably, I don't have, academic research behind this, but they don't really know what's going on. I used to work inside before I went into private practice. At the beginning of COVID, I worked in an elementary school, and lots of children were brought to the first day of school never having worn a mask because their parents didn't believe in it. So there was a really confusing time for kids trying to understand, why do I put this mask on my face? And there was some confusion, especially since masks have become a little bit politicized, I guess, if it's safe to say that. So there was definitely an element there of educating kids enough to be safe in COVID restrictions, but also saying it in a way that doesn't terrify them every time they go outside to breathe or play or whatever. So there have been some very helpful books put forward about what a pandemic is. And I also found very useful for my clients to show them pictures from the Spanish flu. Just so that they can know that this, while it seems new to them, this is not something that we have not experienced before. Kids tend to trust if they know that the adults have encountered something like this before. And I believe that they rely upon us to provide reassurance and safety. So anyway, with kids, I think, and COVID, we've had a challenge being able to tell kids in a way that doesn't frighten them terribly what we're doing here. For teenagers, a whole other different exciting mess. Anyone ever had a teenager in this room? Okay, wonderful people. I absolutely love working with teenagers. That's my main group of people. And they, I believe, actually, in many ways, did a lot better than adults because they're used to living their social lives online, right? So I think that they coped with the loss of the social aspect even probably a little bit better than many adults did. That being said, we have a generation of anxious people in partially, I believe, due to this entire pandemic. Teenagers, I've never seen anxiety as high as I'm seeing it with teens. Are you seeing an increase of anxiety? Yeah. And that can look like just about anything for teenagers and for younger kids. A lot of times with younger kids, anxiety gets expressed as no, or, get away from me. They don't have the words to express, hey, I'm worried that my grandma is going to pass away from COVID. They can't sometimes get there, right? So one thing that adults in the lives, or that have children in their lives, one thing that adults can do is provide feeling words that can help the child express their anxieties about anything, but in particularly about COVID. We can teach them what is a pandemic. We use words all the time that kids don't know. So if you can define words in a non-scary but practical way, I'm not in the business of lying to kids at all, but if you can explain it in a very practical, straightforward way what a pandemic is, kids tend to co-regulate with the adults in their lives, meaning if they see that we're being calm and matter of fact, it's a cue for them to, you know what, this is a new scary thing, but my parents have handled this, or my grandma is not scared, so I don't need to be. So I'm a strong believer in co-regulation for kids and for teenagers. Honestly, I know sometimes in academia, we address teenagers and children as if they're completely different groups, but teens are just, I gotta say, my teens are the ones that like to play with Play-Doh the most in my office, not the kids. So teens need to be reassured as well. So just more generally, what I specifically did with my clients to sort of address anxiety and anxious feelings, particularly about the pandemic, I kind of had to go outside the box with this, right? Because there's no solve for it. We're all just writing this story as it comes along, as far as the pandemic goes. So one thing that I have done with my teen clients in particular is crystals. And I know this sounds kind of silly, and it's certainly a little, it's not for every clinician or every client for that matter, but there's something very easy about telling a client, this is lepidolite, right? And it's supposed to aid concentration. That's the meaning of this stone. Now, do I believe that there's any intrinsic power of this crystal? Not necessarily. It doesn't matter though. What it is it's something for clients to hold in their hand and for me to be like, hold on to that for a minute and see how you feel. It's a backward, sneaky way to get mindfulness in for teenagers. Mindfulness being it's kind of like the hot topic right now for therapists, would you say? Mindfulness being something where you're having, and I can't explain it very well, so I apologize in this amount of time, but it's just kind of being present in this moment and noticing, grounding yourself, noticing like what can you smell, what can you hear, what can you feel, and it helps with anxiety. So sometimes if I can be like, put this in your hand, tell me how you feel after you've been holding on into it a while, they'll be like, oh, I feel so much calmer. And I'm like, great. And whatever works is what I'm going to do when it comes to mental health. So that's one tool. And I actually bought this from a lady out there, if you're interested in her crystals. And she said, if you guys in this session, if you say that you were in this session, she'll give you a rock for free. So you should go out there and take a peek. The other thing that I think has helped kids in this pandemic and will continue to help them is just plain old family time, good old spending time with the important adults in their life. And I have found that many parents seem to feel that if they're not actively teaching their children something or actively working towards some goal, or this is an activity that we're going to do, it starts at 8, it stops at 9:30, that sometimes we're missing that element with our kids and our teens especially. So I don't care if you guys want to binge watch Grey's Anatomy. I think it's fantastic. As long as mom and dad or, the important people in these children's life are there, and they don't have to talk all the time, right? But those children are seeing that we want to be there, and we want to, we are choosing to be with them. A lot of kids feel like their parents would rather be doing other stuff, right? And that's kind of parenting. I have a kid. I can't sit down and give him 100% of my attention every time, right? But I will very much be trying to identify something that I can do, right? And I might be exhausted after work and I'll come home, but it's not that hard for me to watch my kid play Roblox for 20 minutes, right? A video game. And that shows him that I'm interested in what he has to say, and I'm interested in what he has to do. So pandemic or not, the relationship with between parents or loved adults and their children, teens, young adults, kids, it will always be the most important thing and the most strong predictor, I believe, of mental health wellness is how strong the relationships are with the adults in their life. So I think a lot of parents sometimes overthink what to talk about with their kids. It doesn't need to be anything important, but reassurance during this scary time of pandemic is very important, as well as, again, just cultivating those close relationships. Don't be afraid to put your arm around those kids, especially like a teenager. Like, I'm not telling you to go hug a bunch of teenagers, but if you wanted to be a little more demonstrative with a teen, chances are, I'm telling you, those kids love cuddles. They want them. Don't put them too much into that adult spot, right? They're just as scared and needing as comfort as we are. So anyway, I don't know. That's kind of all I had. He is the expert, remember, with his bio being so being so much better than mine. So I will turn it over to you. And yep, go ahead.
The trick is longer bio, shorter speech.
Oh, okay.
So like you said, my name is Tekulvē Jackson-Vann. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I practice primarily in Utah County. I work full-time at a residential treatment center, and then part-time in a group private practice in Orem and Spanish Fork. So what I want to share is geared more towards the adults. So I am what they call a narrative therapist. And so I pay attention to the words that people use to talk about their experiences and the stories that they are creating about their experiences. So I thought that the pandemic was kind of awesome from a narrative therapy perspective, because it did force us to really look at what story are we creating about ourselves and about our health. I think the pandemic was probably like the best thing for my testimony, because I got to do church at home. Not that I don't like my fellow ward members, but I enjoyed home church because I really got to focus on my individual relationship with the gospel and my individual relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. And so in that way, I think it was well-timed. This might be bad to say, but I'm almost kind of excited for a second wave. Like, let's go back to home church. And so, but there was a particular story that kept coming to my mind. So as a missionary, we would always go, Alma chapter 32, Alma chapter 32, right? It's all about faith. But we kind of cut that story off short. So Alma 32 at about verse 28, it says, now we will compare the word unto a seed. Now, if you give place that a seed may be planted in your heart, behold, if it be a true seed or a good seed, if you do not cast it out by your unbelief, that you will resist the Spirit of the Lord, behold, it will begin to swell within your breasts. And when you feel these swelling motions, you will begin to say within yourselves, it must needs be that this is a good seed, or that the word is good, for it beginneth to enlarge my soul, yea, it beginneth to enlighten my understanding, yea, it beginneth to be delicious to me. Now behold, would this not increase your faith? I say unto you, yea, nevertheless, it hath not grown up to a perfect knowledge. But behold, as the seed swelleth and sprouteth and beginneth to grow, then ye must needs say that the seed is good, for it beginneth to swelleth and sprouteth and beginneth to grow. And now behold, will not this strengthen your faith? Yea, it will strengthen your faith, for you will say, I know that this is a good seed, for behold, it sprouteth and beginneth to grow. And now behold, are you sure that this is a good seed? I say unto you, yea, for every seed bringeth forth unto its own likeness. Therefore, if a seed groweth, it is good, but if it groweth not, behold, it is not good, therefore it is cast away. I'm going to skip down to verse 38 and 39. And it says, but if ye neglect the tree and take no thought for its nourishment, behold, it will not get any root. Because it has no root, it withers away, and you pluck it up and you cast it out. And this is my favorite part. Now, this is not because the seed was not good, neither is it because the fruit thereof would not be desirable, but it is because your ground is barren and you will not nourish the tree. Therefore, you cannot have the fruit thereof. And I thought about this in several contexts, and I think coming home and doing the work from home thing may have opened a lot of our eyes to how little self-care we have been doing, how much we've expanded what was supposed to be a 40-hour work week into, well, I'm just going to do a few more hours today and get this thing done. And all of a sudden we realized, wow, I'm working 60 hours a week at this 40-hour job, and I'm volunteering 20 hours of my week to this job. And all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, I have kids at home, and oh, I have a stove that works. And like all of these things that we were noticing that in the everyday course of our lives that we were just neglecting ourselves. And so one of the things, one of the primary things that I took out of, and then I've been sharing with my clients, is this opportunity that we have for self-care. And self-care can be simple. So I have a lot of hair. That's why it's up, because it's hot out here. But it takes me a good hour, hour and a half to wash my hair. And one day I was standing in the shower, washing my hair, and I realized hair care is self-care.
Totally.
And then I thought, oh my gosh, but isn't that one of the things we kind of rush through? Okay, I just got to get this done or whatever. And I just started taking hair days. You know what? Today is going to be hair day. And I'm just going to spend the hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever just to love on my hair. And then all of a sudden I realized, you know what? While I'm doing my hair, my nails could use some attention. So all of a sudden, hair day became spa day. And it was this beautiful thing. And then, oh, DoorDash. So I'm like, oh, look at that. Hair, nails, and a meal, right? But it was great because then we had all this time to ourselves. And so social distancing became this medicine for us, right? Let's disconnect from people so that we could connect to ourselves. And so one of the things that I've been working with my clients to understand, and also with myself, because as much as I preach self-care, I am not a great self-care practitioner. And just learning to turn the everyday things into self-care. So I'm going to challenge you to just mentally do a tour of your home. Mental tour of your home. And that space that has just become storage. It doesn't have to be storage, but it has become storage because it's out of the way and no one goes there, and that's what makes it perfect for storage. So this is what I did. I had one of those storage places in my house, and it was kind of tucked off of my dining room. And one day I decided, I needed a Zen area. And so I cleaned out this storage area and I put in a water feature and one of those, what do we call those chairs? The ones, the big,
Papa-san?
yeah, a papasan chair. And I braved IKEA and got an IKEA lamp and like a blanket from Walmart and the Google Home, because my kids taught me how to use that. And the storage space became like Dad's Zen area. There's no TV there. It's just this quiet area where I can go and disconnect. And I said, no, I'm not going to do any of my telehealth sessions from there. This is not a workspace. This is a connect space. And then all of a sudden that became my write in my journal space, my read my scripture space, my have a conversation with Heavenly Father space. And I have to tell you, I'm Southern, and so I get the parts of Heavenly Father that are Southern. So we don't get the dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day thing. We get to, okay, listen, Father, you gave me this attitude. I need to check in with you. Like there's some people that I'm trying to arrange a meeting between you and them real soon. And, but it just became a place where I can talk out loud to Heavenly Father and just like, take care of my soul. And it didn't have to be pretty, and it didn't have to follow the format. And you can, thank him and ask him, and then come back and thank him and say, are you sure you want to give me any more battles? Because if you give me any more strength, I'm going to need bail and, like all of this stuff. And so like this little area became this self-care area. And I would talk to my kids about it. And then I start to notice that they would take an area of their room and kind of, this is my like self-care area of their room as well. And then I start talking about date night. So we hear date night in the church a lot, right? With our spouses. What about date night with yourself? When was the last time you took yourself on a date? Apparently, I take myself on a date a lot to the at-home store because they know me. So I guess I did a lot of like selfie dates to the at-home store, like redecorating the house and things like that. But those little times were great. It was just me and kind of whatever vision I had for whatever corner of the house I decided needed to be changed. Again, I think my dining room table went through about 3 or 4 different looks during the pandemic. But those little selfie dates that were usually followed by a run to the Maverick for Mountain Dew because caffeine keeps me out of jail. Like those type of things were great to take care of myself. And then to take care of my soul, as she was saying, so I didn't grow up in the church necessarily. I was recruited by the missionaries. I fell for the whole presentation, right? But one of the things is like spiritually, I have always stayed very rooted to my Pentecostal and Baptist upbringing. And so thanks to my Google Home, hey Google, play Kirk Franklin. And I would get some good gospel music going on in the house. And then all of a sudden I felt like I could touch heaven through music. And I didn't realize how much a part of my testimony, gospel music that was not, what are we, tap cats now, not Motab, Tabernacle Choir. I think we're tap cats. So it wasn't necessarily tap cats, but it was like those hymns that got my grandparents and great-grandparents through, their struggles, and that saw my parents through the struggles of the civil rights movement. Like those hymns, I was able to touch back on those things because I didn't have to sit in sacrament meeting with the green book. And, and so all of a sudden it was this realization that I could have a Sunday worship service that looked the way my soul needed it to look, and it was fantastic. And so I would offer that to my clients as well. Like, well, you know, your Sunday worship can look the way you want your Sunday worship to look. And it doesn't just have to be Sunday. You know, it could be in the car on the way to work, and you know, those types of things. One of the other things that I think came out of the pandemic was the use of Zoom and FaceTime and those type of things. I like to eat, obviously. Also like to cook. And so one of the things I was able to do, and I shared this as something that some of my clients can do as well. I have a niece who lives out of state. And so we started doing cooking with Uncle Covey via Zoom on Saturday mornings. And so we would find a recipe during the week. And then on Zoom, we would just get together on Zoom and we would cook together. And then all of a sudden it became kind of a family thing. And so like my mom would start to join. And so then we would have this family time, even though we were away from each other and couldn't travel to be near each other. But we had this time set aside on Saturday morning where we let food that culturally has always brought us together keep us connected, even though we couldn't be physically near each other. And so those are some of the things that I use personally and also in my practice to help people to properly take care of themselves spiritually and emotionally. So let's get to some questions.
Start with one right after. They asked, how do you stay mentally healthy when you observe, this is particularly for someone in the church, when you observe so many abuses of people of color, LGBTQIA, and women?
Yeah, I was like,
Okay.
you know,
All right.
big bio over here.
So look, you know, I'm friends with a lot of my ward members on social media, and I saw a lot of their posts, which also made me thankful that we didn't have to be in the same building, because I love Jesus, but I really understand Peter. And so to avoid cutting off people's ears, you know, I had to tell myself this, like, it's not about me. It's really about them and how they were taught, how they were raised. Like, I know Heavenly Father did not fall asleep at the wheel when he was making me, and there's nothing about me that he needs to come back and fix, or that I need to wait until the afterlife or, you know, some snap of the finger to overcome. Like, if it wasn't pertinent for my development to become like him, he wouldn't have given it to me here. So that's on them, you know. I think this pandemic gave us a healthy step back so that we can have these conversations without having to necessarily worship next to these people on a weekly basis. And so then I could post what I wanted to post and let them sit in it.
Yeah.
And when they got mad, sometimes, you know, the trash takes out itself.
Yep.
So, you know, or I would see their posts and go, oh yes, I would take that invitation to unfriend. You know, yes, we can have a difference of opinion about how strong do you like your coffee? Do pineapples belong on pizza? Does sugar go in grits? Like, you know, we can have a difference of opinion on that. But when it comes to things like, are all men created equal unto God? Should we all be able to worship freely in the church? We're not going to debate that. And if you feel that it's up to debate, I need you to understand, God knows my heart, but the devil knows my vocabulary. So we can have that conversation, but you might not like it. My mission president called me the J. Golden Kimball of his mission. So take that as you may. But it was hard. It's hard when we see that we have been fighting this fight for how many decades? When we have, I sat through the B1 celebration. It was beautiful, but at the same time, I think it raised a lot of other conversation points about, like, is it so hard for us as a church to just say, we got that one wrong? It created harm. Members of color, what can we do to fix this? Right? Isn't that what we teach, right? That when we mess up, we promptly fix it. And I'm the first to say, do I have a testimony of Joseph Smith? Absolutely. Testimony of the Book of Mormon? Absolutely. Me and Brigham, oh, he's gonna be surprised when he sees it. I'm in his family tree. Cousin Brigham, like I can see the flaws in the institution while also appreciating the beauty in it as well. I wouldn't be where I am had I not joined the church. And so I would never turn my back on the church, like never. But I'm also going to be one of those voices that say, but can we talk about the place of women in the church? Because I have often asked, I've spent, a lot of time as a single dad, and I've often asked my bishops, like, so why am I not assigned a visiting teacher? Like, why don't I get access to the power of the Relief Society in my home? Like, I have daughters, and also, like, my son needs to have the influence of righteous women in the home when he's at my house. So, I mean, if single sisters get a home teacher, like, can I not get a visiting sister? We can swap recipes or whatever, And so I think we just kind of have to look at, are we taking things that are policies and making them doctrine and painting ourselves into a box? And kind of waiting for Heavenly Father to, like, tap us on the shoulder and say, you don't have to do it that way? Or are we actually using our agency and the power of inspiration to do what needs to be done to benefit church members?
So Malia, I would love to hear from both of you, but while you were talking, Malia, I realized something that is always kind of a conflict for me, as I have 4 kids. My oldest is 13, almost 13. And something that I notice a lot is that I am constantly sort of like fighting this inner battle about whether I should show them me being authentic and these are real emotions and, like, I'm losing it, and or because I think I kind of grew up in a home where it was sort of like championed that you just like suck it up and you just push things away and, like, get through whatever you need to do. Mm-hmm. And so that became problematic for me later, but I wonder sometimes if I'm, like, swimming way too far on the other side of the spectrum. And so when you're talking about your kids, like, sensing cues from you, like sensing your energy and, like, getting cues of safety, like I that's what I worry about, like what is the balance between, like, being authentic and, like, being the calm, like, captain of the ship?
I love that question. So just from my perspective, and you'll have a different one maybe with your older folks, but from my perspective, I think that you never want to feel like you're totally losing it in front of your kids, unless you are, in which case your kids, it's okay for your kids to see and to say, I've said it to my kid, I'm in a very bad mood right now. If you're asking me for things, this is not a good time to ask it because I just need to go to bed. I'm very cranky and I don't think I'll be fair to you if you're going to talk to me about this stuff that you want right now. And I personally feel, and I don't know, this is like a therapist-y thing, but I personally feel, I don't think kids, first of all, kids know when you're not being genuine. They know the tenor of the household, the feelings in the household. No one knows it better than the kids. So, like, when parents are like, well, we're not fighting in front of them, I'm like, they know you're fighting, my friend. Like, well, how? They just know because because they can't we don't always give them the information of like what's going on in the household. So they have to listen and watch. And so they are watching our reactions even more. I don't think it's a bad thing for a child to see their parent being at the end of their rope. I really don't. Now, that being said, how you react, like you got to show them how you want them to react when they're about to lose it. So if you're going to, flap your arms and yell at them, your kid will do the same thing because that's how we're wiring them to respond in the way that we're showing them. But I try to do it how I would want my kid to do it, which is like, and he has, bless his little heart, he has ADHD, wonderful kid, but life is hard for him. And he told me the other day, I am just very cranky, mommy, and I want to be in my room. And I said, I totally get that. I respect it. Let me get you a glass of water. And that's okay, right? And that's another thing too. We need to normalize that kids, parents, teens, dogs, everybody needs a break sometimes. Sometimes we just need a minute. And I'll just be like, I just need a minute. I'm going to go in my room and possibly cry on my bed for 5 minutes and then get up and make dinner, right? That's the pandemic. Like that's the reality of the pandemic. And I'm not ashamed to for my kid to see me lose it sometimes, but I just try to model for him how I want him to lose it. So what about you?
My kids, it usually involves, hey, let's bake. Okay.
Much more productive.
And we do, like, we just know, like, if someone is off, I've taught my kids over the years to use your words, use your feeling words, and just say, hey, I need a break. They have seen me take a self-care day, which looks like you all have food here. You're old enough to be at home by yourself overnight. Daddy's going to Park City. I'll be back tomorrow. And, and they know, because that's something I need them to also know when they get older. Like, you can't be on 100% of the time. We have a saying in our house, it's okay to not be okay. And so I let them see when I am not okay. Yeah.
Not that we ever are not okay.
Oh, sometimes I am not okay. Yeah. On those 13, 14-hour days.
Yeah. Got it.
Hi, my name is Brian Kassenbrock. I, as many of my friends, have put on a COVID waistline during this terrible 2 years. Haven't been to the gym in 2 years. Reduced activity, periods when you were told to shelter at home unless it's an emergency, and living in proximity to the refrigerator all the time. And can you offer any help?
I think we all longed for comfort in the pandemic, and for many of us, comfort foods were the thing. What I personally feel is that we all did the best we could in this time. And if you gained 5 pounds, 25 pounds, as long as you came through it mentally intact, like you're winning as far as I'm concerned. Now there's also like the therapist-y answers, like find alternative coping mechanisms, go for a walk to reward yourself instead of a donut. I'm not going to say those things because I can't do that. Like a walk is not a reward for me, and God bless those of you where it is a reward for you. I am jealous, but I think if you can find a different way to reward yourself, great. But at the same time, like all I hear are people like, I gained so much weight during COVID, and I'm like, yeah, we all were in a pandemic. My kids are behind in school. Everybody's kids are behind. My work isn't productive. No one's is as productive. So like, let's be realistic about what we can do in this. Let's be realistic that we were all just doing the very best we can to get through this. The gyms were shut down. People were wearing plastic boxes on their head for the first bit. Like we didn't know. We were just all kind of just making it up as we went. So be kind to yourself if you've gained some COVID weight, or if you I don't know, had put on started biting your nails. I have no idea, but like we all do what we do to get through. That's my perspective.
I'm all about relanguaging weight.
Yes.
So weight is a measurement of the gravitational force that it takes to keep your body like connected to the earth, right? Or in other words, how hard the earth is hugging you.
Oh.
You know what? During this pandemic, some of us needed a harder hug than others. And
Brilliant.
as we work on our mental health and emotional health, we will need a softer hug, and then that number will change. So I have adopted the pallbearers diet. I eat what I want to. What I weigh when I die is the pallbearers business.
Ha. Love it. That's great.
To just wrap up, would you both just share resources that have been especially helpful to you on this topic? Like books or, I don't know, whatever comes to mind that you think is helpful.
So, we kind of joke kids don't come with the manual.
Yeah.
I learned in the pandemic that I actually did come with the manual. So I call my mom probably 3 or 4 times every day, and I've realized she knows me better than like anybody, like literally like better than anybody. And so just watching my relationship with my mom through this, I think has been my greatest resource. Literally one day, I was telling her how stressed out I am. This is how much my mom loves me. She said, why don't you go onto the Tiffany website and order yourself something? I was like, this is why I chose you in the pre-existing.
That's
Right then.
I need
But-
your mom.
Right, but she just kind of knew like, that's what I needed. I just ordered like a Tiffany flower pot. So it wasn't like anything like super
Yeah.
duper expensive. But then it was like, okay, now in this flower pot has to go a flower, which means now you have to take care of this thing that can help you to de-stress and things like that. And sometimes, she'll, just call me up, oh, when was the last time you had this snack? I'm like, you know what? It has been a while since I've done that. Or she like sent a care package or something like that. And so for me, the greatest resource has really been like the people who know me most, who knew me well before this pandemic, who can help me get back to my best self. So reach out to the people who know you. I think it's what because those book authors don't know me. They want me to do yoga and stuff like that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Mindfulness is fantastic for people that can do it.
Mindful eating.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, mindful eating.
That is a good resource.
Mindful eating is good because it does kind of
Slow
slow
you
down.
down. Yeah.
So you're not eating as
Yeah.
much and you can listen. Yeah, but it will let you be in touch with your body when your body tells you that it's full. And also making sure that you're actually eating 3 meals instead of like 2 big meals or 1 big meal. Actually eating three meals might also help.
Yeah.
With that.
And there's such shame around eating. Like I just wish people didn't feel so bad about it. Like, but I do too. I mean, I'm not perfect. Some days I'll just be, body positivity is a thing and it's not necessarily easily achieved. It's just tough. So for me, the pandemic, just personally, I'm kind of a control freak. It was really hard to let go of like, okay, I'm not in control here. There's absolutely nothing I can do at this moment for whatever. Just kind of recognizing, I mean, one of the most basic things we learn as therapists is to name the feeling and then to decide what it means to you. And for me, it was a really unpleasant thing to have to realize how much I enjoyed being in control. And that the pandemic just kind of was like, cool, glad you got your ideas, Malia. Not going to happen, So for me, just kind of being like, this is how it is, and I'm just going to ride the wave is kind of all I could do. So I'm sorry, it's not a fantastic, suggestion, but just realizing that you don't have power sometimes takes a lot of pressure off yourself.
Be silly.
Yes, joke.
Like last August, after a couple of months of being shut down or whatever, my kids came and said, can we have Christmas? I was like, you know what? Why not? And we did. We pulled out the Christmas tree. We put up the Christmas decorations. We snuck off to Walmart. We bought gifts. We wrapped them. We did everything that we normally do Christmas. So they opened, put pajamas and candy at midnight. I made a Christmas meal, and we just had Christmas in August because we were just like, we have been shut up in this house for months now, and we're always happy at Christmas. So we just did Christmas from home, and it was fantastic.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.